Tonight we'll drift into a story that is not meant to thrill, nor to keep you alert, but to soothe you gently into slumber. I invite you now to dim your lights, settle under your blanket, and let your body become heavy against the bed. Let the day slip away. All you need to do is listen. Our journey tonight carries us into a quiet Victorian house. Down a long hallway where the lamps burn low, the wallpaper fades into shadows, and only the steady sound of a clock reminds us that time is still moving. Together we'll linger in this calm place, touching on the smallest details, weaving them into a tapestry of comfort. And as you rest here, I wonder, where in the world are you listening from tonight? And what time is it there, in your own quiet corner? And if this calm journey helps you unwind, perhaps you will tap like or subscribe. Only if it feels right, of course. There is no hurry. For now, simply rest, and let the clock tick you deeper into stillness. Let me tell you what it feels like to stand in a Victorian hallway at night. Not a grand ballroom or a glittering parlour, but a hallway, long, narrow, a little plain, and yet full of its own personality. The lamps are turned low, their oil faintly scented, their glass chimneys smudged with soot. Their light stretches only so far, and the edges of the hall seem to blur into shadow, as though the house keeps its secrets tucked away until morning. The wallpaper is patterned with leaves and vines, a little faded by years of lamplight, but in the dim glow those vines almost seem to move, curling softly, like ivy climbing in slow motion. And then, of course, there is the clock. Its case is tall, polished dark wood that smells faintly of beeswax. The pendulum swings behind glass, steady and hypnotic. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Each sound is clear but not sharp, like a metronome that has grown drowsy with age. Sometimes you can almost hear the brass weight sigh as it moves. Have you ever noticed how a clock can feel like company even when the house is empty? Its voice is steady, dependable, reminding you that time itself is still awake while you drift towards sleep. The floor beneath your slippers is polished wood, cool to the touch, though here and there the boards creak, not in protest but in acknowledgement, as if the house knows you're passing through. A draught slips along the skirting boards, carrying with it the faint smell of coal from the fire downstairs. The air is cool but not unfriendly. On a narrow table rests a silver tray. A forgotten teacup sits there, its rim chipped, a few drops of tea dried into a pale ring at the bottom. Beside it, a plate with the crust of a bun left uneaten. You imagine someone pausing here earlier, perhaps a maid carrying things away, or a gentleman too weary to finish his supper. Isn't it strange how even crumbs can carry a story? From somewhere distant, you hear the faint rush of carriages outside, muffled by thick curtains. A horse snorts, a wheel rattles over cobblestones, and then the night swallows it again. The hallway seems to grow quieter with each passing sound, as though proud of being the calmest space in the house. The clock continues, tick-tock. Each second lands gently, like drops of rain against glass. If you focus on it too long, you may find your own breathing falling into rhythm. Inhale on tick, exhale on tock. The rhythm is so steady, so forgiving, that it becomes hard to tell where the clock ends and you begin. On the walls hang small framed prints, landscapes, ships, portraits of men in stiff collars. Their faces seem solemn, but under this dim light their eyes soften. You catch yourself wondering if they, too, are listening to the clock, content to let the hours drift by. The hallway is not lonely, though you stand there alone. It is like a lullaby stretched into wood and wallpaper, polished brass and ticking gears. It holds you gently, guiding you into stillness. And when you close your eyes, you feel that the hallway itself is breathing with you, calm and steady, waiting for morning. And as the last chime of the hour hums softly into silence, let your mind wander, for the night is only just beginning, and the house has more secrets to share. The clock ticks on, and we drift further into the Victorian hallway. It is late now, so late that the city outside has grown quieter, its bustle reduced to a few fading hoofbeats and the occasional distant shout. In here the silence is deeper still, broken only by the steady metronome of brass and wood. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Let me tell you what happens when you listen to it too closely. At first, the clock is just sound, but after a while it begins to feel like a heartbeat, the pulse of the hallway itself. The air seems to move with it, the shadows to sway in time. Even your own thoughts begin to arrange themselves along its rhythm, like words falling neatly into place. The lamps flicker faintly, oil burns lower, and the flame quivers inside its glass chimney. The shadows lengthen, stretching across the wallpaper like black ribbons, curling around the framed pictures that line the wall. You lean closer to one of the frames, the images of a steamship. Tall, proud, its sails half furled, smoke billowing from its stack. The engraving dates from 1840, the year the Cunard Line began its famous Atlantic crossings. Imagine booking passage then, weeks at sea, meals served in grand saloons, the constant creak of wood and canvas, the taste of salt always in the air. Compared to that restless voyage, how gentle this hallway feels. On the small table beneath the picture rests a bowl of barley sweets. They glisten faintly in the lamplight, each wrapped in crinkled paper. You unwrap one slowly, the paper crackling loud in the hush. The sweet itself is golden, sticky, with a flavour that is both sharp and comforting. Half sugar, half grain, like someone tried to turn porridge into candy. You bite and it clings to your teeth, making you smile at its stubbornness. Isn't it funny how even a simple sweet can feel like an indulgence when eaten in silence? Somewhere along the corridor, a draught stirs again. It slips beneath the door, brushing cool against your ankles, carrying with it the faint scent of polish and damp stone. The hallway breathes like this now and then, as though the house itself sighs in its sleep. You draw your shawl tighter, listening to the sigh mingle with the tick of the clock. The stairwell is just visible at the far end. Its banister gleams faintly, polished by countless hands. You rest your own hand there, fingers sliding along the smooth wood. It is warm where the lamp's light touches it, cool where shadow has fallen. The steps creak beneath your weight, but gently, like a cat shifting in its sleep. From above, the sound of the wind rattles faintly at a window. Outside, the branches of a tree scrape against glass. A scratchy lullaby played for no one in particular. You pause, listening. The tree has done this for decades, every windy night the same rhythm, as if rehearsing with the clock for a duet. Back in the hallway, the clock strikes softly, not with grandeur, not with a booming chime, but with a muted note, like a bell wrapped in wool. You count them. 1, 2, 3. It must be near 3 in the morning now. A curious hour, too late to be evening, too early to be morning. Have you ever noticed how 3 a.m. feels like a time that belongs to no one, a pocket of stillness carved out for clocks and whispers? You sink into a chair near the wall, its wood straight-backed, its cushion thin but serviceable. Your hands rest in your lap, and your breathing slows until it matches the pendulum. Tick with the inhale, tock with the exhale. Slowly, almost without trying, your body begins to melt into the rhythm, as though the chair itself has been designed to teach you rest. The hallway is quiet, the portraits watch kindly, the lamps burn low, and the clock continues. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Each sound carries you further into calm, further into night, until the hallway itself feels like a cradle rocking gently on the swing of the pendulum. And as your eyes grow heavier, imagine the house smiling faintly around you, pleased to have kept you company for another hour. The hour has passed and still the hallway keeps you. Its patience is endless, its silence deep, its companionship steady. Let me tell you what it feels like now, to linger longer than you expected, when the night grows heavier and the ticking seems louder than your own thoughts. The lamp flames tremble, lowering with every inch of oil consumed. Their glow is not bright anymore. It is soft, buttery, almost golden brown, like toast held too close to the fire. The wallpaper, patterned with vines and roses, looks different at this dimness. Shadows hide whole leaves, and the roses become darker shapes, almost like stains of ink spreading across the wall. Do you ever find that familiar things transform in low light? The ordinary becomes mysterious, not frightening, just strange, as though the house wishes to show you a quieter face. The clock continues, tick, tock, tick, tock. The sound has grown so familiar now that you hardly hear it, until suddenly you notice again, and it feels louder than before. That's the magic of repetition. It disappears, then returns like an old friend, surprising you by being present all along. On a side table rests a plate covered loosely with a napkin. You lift it, and beneath you find oat biscuits, plain and round. Their surface is rough, their smell faintly nutty, like grain left too long in the sun. You take a bite. The biscuit crumbles instantly, dry and stubborn, clinging to your teeth. You sip from the teacup left earlier, and together they soften into something gentler. Isn't it amusing how many foods of the past were essentially practical, but ended up comforting by accident? A Victorian oat cake was the closest thing they had to a midnight granola bar. Simple, portable, filling. The fact that it squeaks faintly between your teeth only makes you smile in the silence. A draft moves again, this time stronger, as though a door somewhere downstairs has opened and closed. It lifts the edges of the napkin, makes the lamp flame stretch, and rustles faintly through the dried flowers set in a vase on the console. Their petals whisper against each other, brittle, papery, sounding almost like crickets chirping in the summer. You lean closer, breathing in the faint ghost of lavender, though most of the scent is gone, leaving only a dry sweetness. The portraits continue their watch. Tonight one seems to lean more than the rest, a young woman with a lace collar and hair pinned high. Her expression is faintly serious, but softened by the flickering light. You imagine she once stood here herself, listening to the same clock tick, perhaps pausing halfway to her own room. The thought comforts you, that the hallway holds not only you, but memories of countless footsteps, countless pauses. You're not alone in your stillness. The clock strikes again, this time 4. The sound is muffled, as though the clock is aware that the house is sleeping. 4 gentle notes, low and patient. Isn't it curious how sound changes with the hour? At midday, the same chime would be drowned in voices and footsteps. But at night, each note lingers, echoing into silence like ripples across still water. The floor creaks softly beneath your chair, though you have not moved. The wood contracts as the fire dies elsewhere, shifting in its sleep. The house is alive in this way, not loudly, but with the faint settling noises of beams and boards, as though stretching its limbs in slumber. You lean back, your eyes half closed, listening not just to the clock, but to the harmony of sounds around it. The draft sighing, the flame murmuring, the boards settling, the clock ticking. Together, they form a lullaby made of wood and air, brass and shadow. Your hand rests again on the banister. It is smooth under your fingers, warm from the lamp's glow. You trace it slowly, letting the wood guide you. It feels steady, loyal, like the arm of an old friend. Perhaps that is what the hallway truly is. An old friend who asks for nothing, gives nothing but time, and still makes you feel safe. And as the hour deepens further, as the lamps burn lower, the hallway holds you still, its calm pressing softly around you like a blanket. The night presses deeper, and the hallway seems to grow longer, as if each tick of the clock stretches the space just a little further. Let me tell you what it feels like to remain here at this strange hour, when the house is still breathing but the world outside feels impossibly far away. The lamps now are nearly out. Their oil has burned low, and the flames shrink into small, trembling beads of light. They glow more like fireflies than lamps, flickering in glass chimneys smudged with soot. Shadows have grown bold. They creep across the walls, pooling at the corners, crawling over the patterned wallpaper. The roses in the design look almost alive, their petals folding into darkness, their vines looping into endless spirals. Isn't it curious how the imagination fills in what the light no longer reveals? The clock continues, steady as ever. Tick, tock, tick, tock. Each swing of the pendulum is like a breath, a slow exhale from a body you cannot see. Sometimes it feels as though the clock itself is watching you, its polished wood gleaming faintly, its brass pendulum glinting with every swing. Not menacing, no, only attentive, as though pleased to have you for company in its vigil. On a narrow table near the stairwell rests a covered dish. You lift the lid carefully, and there beneath it sits a slice of seed cake. The Victorians adored such cakes. Simple, spiced with caraway seeds, often served at teas. You break a corner and bring it to your mouth. The texture is dense, crumbly, the seeds releasing their sharp, almost peppery flavour as you chew. It tastes both sweet and strange, like bread that couldn't quite decide if it wanted to be pudding. You smile at the thought. Wasn't this, in a way, their version of a midnight snack? The closest thing to a Victorian energy bar ready to keep you awake through another hour of ticking. The hallway grows cooler. A draught slips down the stairs and brushes along the floorboards. You feel it at your ankles, at your wrists, sneaking beneath your shawl. It carries with it the smell of damp stone from the cellar, the faint mineral tang of earth and coal. The house breathes through its seams, exhaling gently into the quiet. From outside comes a faint rattle, the iron railings shaking in the wind, the branches of the trees scraping lightly against glass. They sound like someone writing with a quill, long, scratchy strokes, an endless letter written to the night. Do you ever think buildings talk to each other this way, with rattles and scratches, whistles and sighs? The portraits continue their solemn watch. Tonight one catches your eye, a stern gentleman with mutton chop whiskers, his hand resting on a book. The light flickers across his painted eyes, making them gleam faintly. For a moment you imagine he blinks. You almost laugh at yourself. But isn't it soothing to think that even painted faces might join in keeping you company? The clock strikes 5. The chime is softer now, almost weary, as if it too longs for morning. Each note hums into silence, leaving a gentle echo behind. This is the hour before dawn, the quietest time of all, when even the city outside seems hushed. No hoofbeats, no vendors, no carriages, only the long, slow sigh of the night preparing to hand itself over to day. You stand, stretching, and the floorboards creak beneath your feet. The sound is oddly reassuring, like a familiar voice reminding you that the house is alive, awake in its own slow way. You trail your fingers along the banister once more, its wood smooth and solid, a reminder of every hand that has passed this way before you. The hallway feels almost endless now, stretching into both shadow and memory, yet it is not empty. It is filled with the steady tick of the clock, the faint smell of seed cake, the sigh of draughts, the gaze of portraits, the hush of wallpaper roses fading into dark. And as you return to your chair, the clock keeps its rhythm. Tick-tock, tick-tock, it cradles you in its patience, rocking you gently toward the edge of dawn. The night drifts onward, and you remain with the hallway, as if the two of you are the only ones left awake in the house. The air is cool, but not biting. It has that particular stillness found only in the deep hours before dawn, when even the mice are tucked away, and only the clock insists on speaking tick-tock, tick-tock. The pendulum swings, and the sound grows softer, as though it has learned to match the rhythm of your own breath. Each tick is like the inhalation of a long, slow breath, and each tock like the sigh that follows. Have you ever noticed how clocks seem to listen as much as they speak? They don't just mark time, they keep you company, steadying you against silence. The hallway stretches ahead, dimly lit by the last reserves of the lamps. Their glow is amber now, dimmer than candlelight, casting faint halos against the wallpaper. The pattern, once roses and vines, has blurred into a gentle haze, like paint washed by rain. You don't see details anymore. You see impressions, soft and dreamlike. Shadows pool at the corners, not menacing but inviting like the folds of a heavy curtain. On the table by the wall sits a small tin box. Its lid is dented, but still it opens with a faint metallic sigh. Inside, nestled in paper, are sugared ginger pieces, an old Victorian treat, believed to warm the stomach and settle the nerves. You take one, its sugar rough against your tongue. The bite comes sharp at first, fiery, almost startling before softening into warmth that spreads slowly, like embers glowing in the hearth. Isn't it remarkable how something so small can feel like a fire inside you? The Victorians swore by ginger for everything from seasickness to melancholy. Tonight, it feels like the closest thing to holding a cup of tea in your chest. You lean back into the straight wooden chair, chewing slowly, and listen. The house continues its quiet symphony. A faint creak in the beams above, a whisper of wind pressing against the window panes, the sigh of the lamp as it gutters lower, and always, beneath it all, the heartbeat of the clock. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Together the sounds weave a lullaby that belongs only to buildings like this. Old, patient, half asleep, but never entirely still. The portraits on the wall seem softer now. Their stern faces blur in the weak light, and their eyes no longer watch with scrutiny but with a kind of dreaminess, as though they too are slipping into slumber. One frame tilts slightly, its chain rattling faintly against the nail as the draft stirs. The man in the portrait seems almost amused by it, his painted lips turned into something like a smile in the shifting light. The clock strikes again, 6 notes, each gentle, each a small ripple across the surface of silence. 6 o'clock, though the sky outside still hides its dawn, refusing to lift the curtain just yet. The chime fades, and in its place comes only the pendulum again, faithful as always. Have you noticed how a chime doesn't truly end when it fades? Its echo remains inside you, like a thought you can't quite let go. You rise, stretch, and wander a little further down the hall. Your slippers whisper against the polished wood. The boards creak softly, but they do not protest. They're used to this hour, used to carrying footsteps from one quiet room to another. The draft follows you, brushing lightly at your ankles like a cat that wants attention but doesn't want to be seen. On another small table rests a half-burnt candle, its wax pooled unevenly at the base. You touch the hardened drip and it flakes away like chalk. The wick is bent, frozen mid-fall, as though someone set it down and forgot it hours ago. It carries with it the faint smell of tallow, mingled now with the sweeter tang of the sugared ginger still lingering on your tongue. The mix is strange, but oddly comforting, like the clash of scents in a kitchen long after supper is finished. The house exhales again, wood shifting, walls murmuring, the draught returning. You close your eyes, letting it all wash over you. The tick of the clock, the warmth of the ginger, the faded scent of candle and polish, the steady hush of a house that has been keeping nights like this for centuries. And as you open your eyes once more, the hallway looks exactly the same. Long, dim, watchful, yet you feel it has changed. Or perhaps it is you who has shifted, grown calmer, softer, lulled deeper into the rhythm of this timeless place. The pendulum swings, the clock breathes, the night stretches on. The ginger's warmth lingers in your chest like a small coal glowing faintly, while the hallway folds itself around you once more. The night is thinning now, though no dawn yet dares to show. It is the greyest hour, the one Victorians sometimes called the watchman's hour, when all is still but for the ticking of time. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The clock does not tire. Its pendulum swings with the same calm as when you first entered, as though it has been keeping this vigil for centuries. Some say grandfather clocks became symbols of stability in Victorian homes precisely for this reason. They were not just furniture, but companions. Each tick was a promise. I am here, I will continue. The lamps are nearly done. The last one hisses softly, a flame shivering inside its chimney. Its glow barely holds back the shadows now. The wallpaper looks faded, the roses in its pattern drifting into darkness until they resemble ghosts of flowers, remembered but no longer blooming. Have you noticed how shadows never hurry? They creep slowly, reclaiming the room 1 inch at a time, patient as moss. On a sideboard stands a shallow dish with candied peel, strips of orange rind boiled and sugared, their colour dull in the weak light. You take one and chew slowly. The sugar crunches, then melts, while the bitterness of the peel pushes through. It is sweet and sharp at once, a little surprising, as if the fruit wanted to remind you of its origin. In the 1850s, candied peel was common in kitchens, especially for plum puddings and fruitcakes. Tonight it feels like the closest thing to tasting sunshine in the dark. The draught returns, slipping from the stairwell, brushing cool fingers along your sleeves. It lifts the edge of the curtain at the far end, and for a moment you glimpse a slice of night sky through the glass. It is clouded, pale, carrying the faint promise that dawn is somewhere waiting. A star flickers faintly, then disappears, veiled by the slow crawl of clouds. You hear the house shift again, boards groaning, beams tightening as though the whole structure was stretching after a long dream. From somewhere far off, a pipe knocks faintly, like a muffled knock at a door. The house has its own voice, its own orchestra of tiny sounds, and the clock keeps the rhythm for them all. Tick, tock, tick, tock. On the wall, the portraits seem to soften further. Their eyes, once stern, look dreamy in the last lamplight. The gentleman with whiskers appears almost amused. The lady in lace seems to tilt her head kindly. You wonder if they, too, once knew this hush, if they once sat in this hallway, sugared peel on their tongue, listening to this same clock keep them company. Isn't it soothing to think that time layers itself like this, that you're sharing an hour with people long gone simply by listening to the same tick? The clock strikes softly. 7 chimes this time, though muted, as though wrapped in velvet. Each note vibrates gently into the floor, into your chair, into your chest. 7 o'clock, though it is not yet truly morning. The world outside still rests, though the city will stir soon. For now, the house clings to its silence, not ready to release it just yet. You close your eyes for a moment, breathing in the faint mingling of scents, sugar, peel, coal dust, polish. The combination is odd but comforting, a perfume of the Victorian night. The draft strokes your cheek, the floor creaks under its own weight, and the clock continues. When you open your eyes again, the hallway looks unchanged, long, narrow, watchful, and yet perhaps it feels friendlier, as though the longer you remain, the more the house accepts you, drawing you into its rhythm. The shadows don't seem so deep now, nor the silence so heavy. They feel like companions, waiting quietly, content to let you drift as the night moves on. And so, once again, you lean back into your chair, shawl tucked close, breath slowing until it matches the pendulum's steady swing. Tick, tock, tick, tock. The clock breathes, the hallway watches, and you are safe in their company. The night deepens into its quietest hush, and still the hallway holds you. Each sound feels amplified, not because it is loud, but because there is nothing else to compete with it. The steady tick of the clock, the faint sigh of the draft, the tiny creak of beams, they form a language of their own, one that speaks not in words but in rhythm. Tick, tock, tick, tock. The pendulum swings as if it has no intention of ever stopping. It doesn't hurry, it doesn't hesitate. It moves with the calm certainty of something that has outlasted generations. Imagine all the nights this clock has seen. Parties winding down, guests removing their gloves, servants creeping upstairs after long hours of work. And now, this night, it ticks for you alone. The lamps, nearly extinguished, glow like embers. Their glass chimneys are fogged, their flames tiny but determined, as if reluctant to surrender. Shadows stretch longer now, pooling in corners until they blur with the carpet. The wallpaper, once busy with vines and blossoms, looks almost blank in the dimness, an empty canvas painted with the faint breath of light. On the hall stand near the door rests a small jar of barley sugar sticks. They gleam faintly in the lamplight, striped amber and gold twisted into long spirals. You take one, snap off the end, and let it melt against your tongue. The flavour is warm, sweet, with a grain-like edge that makes it less candy and more comfort. In the early 1800s, barley sugar was given as both treat and tonic, believed to soothe the throat. Tonight it soothes something else entirely. It calms the mind, slowing your thoughts until they move as steadily as the pendulum. The house breathes again, a faint thump, perhaps a shudder in the wind followed by a low groan in the timbers. The sounds are not alarming, only familiar, like the body of the house shifting on its pillow. Have you ever noticed how buildings seem to sleep too, making small noises in their slumber, as if dreaming of the people who live inside them? You rise and walk a little farther. The floorboards creak beneath your slippers, not sharply, but with the softness of an old violin string plucked gently. At the far end of the hall, a door is closed tight. Its paint is chipped, its handle cool brass. You do not open it, for the hallway itself is enough. Still, the sight of the door makes you wonder. How many mornings did it open to laughter? How many nights to quiet footsteps hurrying towards sleep? The clock strikes again, and you count the notes. 8. Each chime is gentle, as though wrapped in felt. The sound lingers in the wood, in the air, in your chest. 8 o'clock. Neither late nor early, in the strange language of the night. Outside, a faint change stirs. The city beyond the glass is still quiet, but not as deeply as before. Somewhere far off a milk cart rattles. Somewhere else a watchman's call fades into silence. The world is thinking of waking, though not yet. You return to your chair, barley sugar dissolving slowly, its sweetness a companion to the clock's steady song. Your shawl is soft against your cheek, and the draught feels less like intrusion now, more like the touch of cool linen on a warm forehead. The portraits on the wall, blurred by shadows, no longer look stern. They seem restful, their eyes softened by the half-light, their lips curved into faint lines that might almost be smiles. Perhaps they, too, are soothed by the clock's eternal lullaby. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The sound fills the hallway, fills your thoughts, fills the spaces between one breath and the next. The house does not hurry you, does not demand anything. It simply waits with you, rocking you gently on the pendulum swing. And as the faintest pale glow begins to creep at the edges of the curtains, the hallway seems to whisper, "Stay a little longer. There is still time before morning." The barley sugar has dissolved, leaving only a faint sweetness on your tongue as the hallway folds back into silence. Time here feels different now, stretched, softened, as though each minute were wrapped in wool before being allowed to pass. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The grandfather clock continues its vigil, steady, unhurried, patient. It has become less like a machine and more like a presence, a companion that refuses to leave. Some Victorians believed that when a clock stopped, a death in the household was near. That superstition adds a strange comfort to the ticking, because as long as it goes on, you know that life is still being measured gently, 1 second at a time. The lamps now are but faint shadows of themselves. The oil is nearly gone, the flames small and golden, each flicker like a sigh. Shadows claim most of the wallpaper, leaving only hints of its once bright vines. The patterns blur until they look like clouds, drifting silently across the walls. Have you noticed how darkness can turn decoration into imagination? It lets you see not what is there, but what your mind wishes to rest upon. On a side table, a covered plate remains. Beneath the cloth lies a heel of bread, spread with cold butter and sprinkled with sugar. A common Victorian treat, simple, quick, something even children would be given at bedtime. You take a bite. The butter is stiffened, the sugar crunches against your teeth. The bread is slightly stale, yet together they create a small, homely sweetness. The closest thing to a Victorian midnight dessert, humble and yet somehow perfect. The draught returns, curling along the floor, carrying the faint smell of damp earth from the cellar. It brushes against your ankles, makes the flame of the nearest lamp bow low, and rustles the paper left forgotten on the hall stand. The sound is faint, like whispers between ghosts, but gentle, never frightening. You glance at the portraits once more. Tonight the lady in lace seems the kindest, her painted eyes softened by the low light. You imagine her pausing here, much as you are, balancing a plate of sugared bread, listening to the same pendulum tick. The hallway, after all, has watched many nights, has cradled many sleepers on their way to dreams. Isn't it soothing to know that you are only the latest in a long, unbroken line of quiet wanderers? The clock strikes again. 9. Each chime resonates low, gentle and measured, as though wrapped in layers of fabric. The sound hums against the walls, slides along the floor, and settles into your bones. Outside, a faint shift occurs. The city begins to think of morning. A cart rattles in the far distance. A rooster crows faintly from a backyard. Yet here, in this hallway, the night still belongs to you. You lean back into your chair, shawl tucked around your shoulders, bread finished, sugar still sweet on your lips. The air feels cooler now, the silence thicker, but the ticking remains steady. It is almost like floating in a warm bath, supported, surrounded, weightless. The hallway waits with you, patient, timeless, holding you in its embrace of wood and shadow. Every sound, the creak of a beam, the whisper of a draught, the sigh of a lamp is part of the lullaby. And the clock, always the clock, rocks you gently with its pendulum, tick by tick, tock by tock, until even your thoughts begin to dissolve into stillness. And as the faintest glow of grey gathers at the window, hinting at dawn yet to come, the hallway seems to say, "Not yet. Rest a little longer. Let the night hold you just a little more." The sugar bread has left only a faint sweetness at the back of your throat, and now the hallway seems even quieter, as though it too is leaning into the slow rhythm of the clock. The air is still, the night hushed, and the steady tick-tock, tick-tock becomes the only true anchor in the darkness. This is the hour when the lamps no longer fight against shadow, but surrender. Their glow is weak, flickering low, their chimneys streaked with soot. Each flame looks as though it might vanish with a single sigh. The shadows stretch wide now, swallowing most of the wallpaper. The roses and vines are no longer flowers. They have become silhouettes, drifting shapes that change with each movement of the flame. Isn't it strange how patterns become stories in the dark, like clouds during the day? The clock's pendulum swings on. It is hypnotic, steady, and somehow reassuring. A great many Victorians kept these long-case clocks for precisely that reason. They were companions to silence, measuring the hours in a way that made time feel less lonely. Tonight its rhythm is your companion, a faithful voice in an otherwise empty hall. On the console table, a small dish glints faintly. You lift the lid and find candied violets, fragile purple petals, preserved in sugar until they sparkle like tiny crystals. You take one carefully. It crunches softly between your teeth. The flavour is floral, faintly perfumed, almost like eating the memory of a flower. It lingers long after the sugar melts, leaving a whisper of spring in the depths of night. The Victorians adored such delicacies, and isn't it curious that something so delicate could last months, waiting quietly to be tasted? The draught stirs again, more insistent now. It lifts the edge of the curtain, revealing the faintest paling of the sky beyond. Not dawn yet, but the promise of it. The glass fogs slightly, and when you wipe it with your sleeve, your breath misting against the pane, you glimpse rooftops resting beneath a sky that is still mostly dark but lighter at the edges. The house shifts too, as though stirred by the coming day. A distant creak in the beams above, a faint drip in a pipe, the sigh of cooling ashes in the parlour hearth. Each sound folds into the silence, never breaking it, only deepening its texture. The clock listens to them all, steady as conductor to a very slow orchestra. The portraits on the wall seem to change once more. In this faint half-light, their eyes look softer still. The gentleman with whiskers seems less stern, almost thoughtful. The lady in lace tilts her head kindly, her gaze warm. You imagine them sharing this moment with you. Their silence not judgment but solidarity. After all, they too were once listeners of the same ticking, dreamers under the same wallpaper shadows. The clock strikes 10. 10 low, gentle notes. Each one settles into the hallway like a pebble into a pond, rippling outward until it fades. You count them slowly, your breaths falling into their rhythm, until the last note dissolves into silence. The air feels different now. Cooler, yes, but also lighter, as though the night is loosening its hold. You draw your shawl closer and lean against the chair's wooden back. Your eyes grow heavy, your body slackening, your thoughts drifting like those shadow roses on the wall. The candied violet has left only sweetness on your tongue, and the ticking clock carries you gently onward, second by second, like a boat rocking softly on still waters. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The hallway waits with you, timeless, patient, until the dawn decides to arrive. The candied violet's sweetness fades, and in its place the silence of the hallway grows richer, like a fabric woven with threads of shadow and sound. This is the part of the night when time feels almost suspended, neither fully dark nor yet touched by dawn. Only the clock insists that the minutes are moving forward. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The pendulum swings, polished brass glinting faintly in the last thin glow of the lamps. Each motion is deliberate, almost meditative. It is not in a hurry. It never is. And you too begin to feel unhurried, as if your breath and the pendulum are in quiet agreement to take things slowly. The lamps are nearly gone now. The oil is exhausted, the flame small and steady, a golden bead trembling within glass. Shadows cover most of the wallpaper, blurring its roses and vines into a soft haze. What remains visible looks dreamlike, as though the wall itself has fallen half asleep. Isn't it curious how even wallpaper seems to rest at this hour, its busy patterns dulled into stillness? On the small table near the banister rests a covered dish. You lift the lid gently and inside lies a slice of cold apple tart. The pastry is firm, the apples darken slightly, the sugar on top hardened into a crust. You take a bite and it tastes of autumn. Tart fruit mellowed by sweetness, crust flaky yet heavy with butter. The Victorians often served such tarts at supper, though this forgotten piece feels more like a gift left for you by the house itself. A midnight version of comfort food, the closest thing to a Victorian hot pocket, though far less hurried, far more tender. The draught moves again, curling up the stairwell, slipping around your ankles. It carries the smell of coal, faint but distinct, mixed now with something softer, perhaps the lavender sachet tucked in a drawer nearby, its scent released by the shifting air. The combination is odd but strangely soothing. Coal and lavender, smoke and flowers, the harsh and the gentle woven together just like the house itself. The portraits along the wall are hushed companions. Their painted eyes gleam faintly in the half-light, softened by shadow until their sternness seems to dissolve. You imagine them listening too, each tick and tock heard across decades. Perhaps the woman in lace once ate candied violets in this same hallway. Perhaps the whiskered gentleman once paused for apple tart, crumbs scattering across the carpet. Isn't it comforting to think that these rituals, small and ordinary, bind us across time? The clock strikes again. 11 chimes, each one low and calm like ripples of sound drifting out into the dark. You count them softly, lips moving, eyelids heavy, until the last note fades into silence. 11 o'clock. Not yet dawn, not yet day, just the edge of night softening at its seams. The house creaks gently, wood shifting as the temperature changes. Somewhere far above, a door rattles faintly, then falls still again. It is as though the house stirs in its own sleep, muttering to itself before sinking back into dreams. The clock listens, unbothered, faithful. Tick-tock, tick-tock.
Hey.
You rest back in your chair, the taste of apple still lingering, the shawl pulled close against the draught. Your eyes close, your breath slows, and the pendulum rocks you like a cradle. The hallway feels infinite and yet intimate, a place that exists only for you, where silence and ticking are the only companions you need. The night has grown softer, the air gentler, the shadows calmer, and as you sink deeper into stillness, the hallway seems to whisper, "You're safe, you're steady, you may drift as slowly as you wish." Tick-tock, tick-tock. The apple tart has left behind its buttery sweetness, and once again the hallway is yours alone. The silence is thicker now, heavy like a velvet curtain drawn across the night. Only the steady rhythm of the clock cuts through, reminding you that time, however softened, is still moving. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The pendulum swings like a lullaby, its brass glinting faintly in what little light remains. Every sound in the house seems to bend itself to the clock's rhythm, the creak of a board, the sigh of a draught, even your own breathing slow and steady. It is as if the hallway itself is swaying with the pendulum, rocking you deeper into stillness. The lamps have grown weak, their flames shrunken into tiny golden beads. The glass chimneys are blackened near the top, and the faint hiss of oil nearly spent fills the silence like a whisper. Shadows have taken over most of the walls now, and the wallpaper, its roses and vines once lively, looks muted, almost erased. Isn't it strange how the details of a room disappear at night, as though the house knows you're too weary to notice them? On the hall table rests a small jar, its lid loosened. Inside, dark shapes glisten faintly. You reach in and draw out a piece of preserved plum, sugared and sticky. You bite into it, and the taste bursts across your tongue. Rich, sweet, a little sharp, like a memory of summer bottled up for winter nights. The Victorians loved their preserves, a way of holding on to warmth when the nights stretched long. Tonight it feels like a secret gift, sweet enough to stir your senses, soft enough to lull you again. The draught whispers through once more, this time carrying the faint scent of iron, perhaps from the railings outside, damp with dew. It brushes across your cheek, cool and fleeting like the touch of a passing thought. The curtains shift faintly with it, and beyond them the night sky is paling ever so slightly. The first suggestion of dawn is hidden in those clouds, waiting quietly, unwilling yet to arrive. The portraits on the walls are shadows now, their faces faint outlines in the dimness. They are less like people and more like echoes, shapes of lives long gone blurred into the wallpaper itself. Yet their presence is not unsettling. They are quiet companions sharing the hallway with you, their silence a kind of solidarity. The clock chimes again. 12. Midnight. Each note falls heavy and low, humming into the floorboards, resonating through the chair beneath you. 12 strokes, slow and certain, each one like the tolling of a distant bell across water. You count them, eyelids heavy, until the last note fades into nothing. Midnight, a threshold neither night nor morning, simply time suspended. The house exhales again, wood shifting, a door far off settling against its frame. The sounds are familiar now, expected, even comforting. Each one is like the sigh of an old friend, reminding you that you are not alone. You sip the last of the cool tea left forgotten on the tray, its flavour muted but still steadying. The plum's sweetness lingers, the sugar dissolving slowly as the clock continues. Tick-tock, tick-tock. You lean back into your chair, the shawl soft against your cheek, your body heavy, your breath deep. The night feels endless and yet close, like the inside of a warm pocket. The hallway, with its shadows and silence, has become less a place and more a cradle, rocking you with every swing of the pendulum. And as you close your eyes for a moment, you feel the world shrink to nothing more than this. A clock's voice, a draft's sigh, a hallway that keeps you safe until morning decides to come. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Midnight has passed, and still the hallway holds you in its patient embrace. The world outside lies heavy with sleep, but here, in this long corridor of shadows, the night lingers like a guest who refuses to leave. The silence is deeper now, and each sound from the house feels louder, clearer, more deliberate. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The grandfather clock carries on, tireless in its rhythm. The pendulum sways like the slow breath of the house itself, polished brass flashing faintly with each arc. In the stillness, the ticking is no longer just sound, it is presence. Each tick is a reminder that time keeps flowing even when the rest of the world seems paused. The lamps are nearly extinguished. Their flames are weak, pale as candle stubs, and the hiss of oil nearly spent fills the silence. The wallpaper fades further, its roses and vines vanishing into shadow, their patterns smudged like charcoal sketches. The floor beneath your slippers feels cool now, as though the warmth of the day has completely seeped away. On a nearby tray lies a small parcel wrapped in paper. You unfold it slowly, and inside you find a square of almond toffee, hard and glossy. You place it against your tongue, and it resists at first, then softens with warmth. The flavour is deep, nutty, sweet with burnt sugar. The Victorians adored such confections, something to gnaw slowly, to stretch across long hours. And isn't it fitting here in the hallway to taste something that lasts as long as the ticking clock itself? The draught stirs again, curling around the corners, carrying a faint scent of coal and something older, dust perhaps, or the faint smell of old leather from books shelved in another room. It lifts the edge of the curtain, and for a fleeting moment you see the sky. It is still dark, but no longer entirely black. A faint blue creeps along the horizon, the first quiet whisper of morning, though the world itself is not ready to rise. The portraits on the wall seem gentler in this hour. Their shapes blur into the wallpaper, their eyes softened by shadow. They are less like faces and more like memories, traces of lives once carried down this very hallway. You feel them as companions, watching not with judgment but with calm. Perhaps they too once sat in silence here, letting the clock carry them through the stillest hours of the night. The clock chimes again. 13? No, of course not. Only one, though it feels louder than the midnight toll. One heavy note lingering humming into the wood and air. A single chime, lonely yet steady, like a candle flame refusing to be put out. 1 o'clock, a strange hour, the kind that feels separate from the rest of time. Have you ever noticed how hours after midnight seem less like numbers and more like moods? The house groans softly, timbers tightening against the cool. A door above rattles once, then rests. The sound is not startling, it is familiar, like the gentle stirring of a sleeping body shifting position. The house itself is dreaming, and you are awake inside its dreams. The toffee lingers, refusing to vanish quickly. You let it dissolve, letting its sweetness stretch across the minutes, matching the pendulum's swing. Tick, tock, tick, tock. The flavour fades slowly, the clock keeps steady, and the silence fills the rest. You lean into the chair, shawl drawn closer, and allow your body to soften once again. Your breath matches the pendulum, your heartbeat slows, and the hallway seems to shrink until it is only this. The taste of sugar, the whisper of draughts, the rhythm of brass against time. The night holds you still but gently, as though it knows its time is running out, and it wishes to comfort you before dawn arrives. Tick, tock, tick, tock. The almond toffee is melted into memory, and the hallway once again surrounds you with its patient stillness. The house feels quieter than ever now, the silence so deep that it seems almost to press gently against your skin. Yet the clock is there, always there, steady in its vigil. Tick, tock, tick, tock. The pendulum sways like a hypnotist's hand, guiding your thoughts into softer patterns. Its brass disc gleams faintly with each swing, a flash of light in the shadowed wood. The ticking is no longer background, it is the foreground, the anchor, the thread stitching every second together. The lamps are nearly extinguished. Their flames are tiny now, trembling weakly as if reluctant to let go. Their glow reaches only a foot or two before surrendering to shadow. Most of the hallway has dissolved into a soft darkness. The wallpaper's roses nothing more than faint outlines. You can almost imagine the vines moving, creeping along the walls like ivy in moonlight. Isn't it peculiar how darkness tricks the eye, reshaping stillness into motion? On a low side table sits a glass jar with a metal lid. You twist it open, and inside are little squares of crystallized ginger coated in sugar. You take one, bite into it, and the fire blooms instantly. Sharp, hot, alive, before softening into sweetness that lingers in your throat. A Victorian favourite, both candy and remedy, praised for warming the body on cool nights. Tonight it feels like a spark hidden in your chest, glowing brighter with each breath. The draught moves once more, curling up from the stairwell, brushing your ankles, then lifting to tug lightly at your shawl. It carries with it the faint scent of damp earth, as though the garden outside is breathing through the cracks of the house. The curtains shift softly, and beyond them, the sky shows just the faintest suggestion of pale grey. Dawn is still far, but it waits at the edges, patient. The portraits are shadows now, softened to outlines, their eyes hidden by dimness. They are less like paintings and more like silhouettes, shapes of those who came before, blurred into the hallway itself. Their silence is not heavy but kind, as though they are keeping the watch with you, companions in the long night. The clock chimes again. 2. 2 soft, deliberate notes, each one rolling into the wooden floor. They linger long after they fade, their echo humming in your chest. 2 o'clock, the deep heart of night. Have you noticed how time after midnight feels different from any other? Not a number, but a mood. 2 o'clock is not loud or busy, it is still, contemplative, almost tender. The house stirs faintly, a timber creaking overhead, the faint patter of something settling in the chimney. The sounds are not startling. They are familiar, like the shifting of a sleeper under blankets. The house dreams on, and you are part of its dream. The ginger burns sweetly still, its warmth lingering, as though your body has swallowed a tiny ember. You lean back into your chair, your shawl wrapped close, and let yourself melt further into the steady rhythm. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Each sound carries you further away from wakefulness, deeper into calm like stepping stones across a dark, still river. The hallway is long, the shadows endless, but they no longer feel empty. They feel full of silence, full of history, full of the comfort that only comes from stillness well kept. And as your eyes grow heavy again, you realize the hallway has become something more than wood and wallpaper. It has become a cradle, a companion, a song in which you drift, rocked always, gently, by the pendulum's eternal swing. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The ginger's fire lingers warmly in your chest, fading now into a gentle glow, while the hallway stretches before you in its quiet patience. It is the deep heart of the night, the hour when the world beyond these walls has fallen utterly silent. No carriages rattle past, no voices echo from the street. Only the clock reminds you that time is still alive. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The sound is steady, timeless, unbothered by the long night. Each swing of the pendulum is like the drawing of breath, the house inhaling and exhaling slowly, endlessly. The rhythm folds into your own body until you cannot tell if it is the clock ticking or your heartbeat echoing in its company. The lamps are nearly gone. One flame gutters low, fighting for life before shrinking into a faint glow. Another has already surrendered, leaving its chimney smudged with soot and its brass base faintly warm to the touch. Most of the hallway lies in shadow now. The wallpaper's roses are no longer roses. They're soft, dark shapes, their vines blending into the quiet like veins of the house itself. Have you ever noticed how the less you see, the more your mind supplies? Darkness becomes imagination's canvas. On the narrow console table rests a small tin, its lid embossed with delicate flowers. You lift it, and inside are lemon drops, round and dusted with sugar. You place one on your tongue. The sweetness comes first, then the sharp tang of citrus, a brightness that cuts through the stillness like a sudden shaft of sunlight. The Victorians prized lemon drops not only as a treat but as a cure for sore throats. Tonight they feel like a reminder of daylight, stored sunshine unwrapped in the middle of the night. The draught drifts along the hall again, soft and slow. It curls around your ankles, sighs across the baseboards, and rises faintly to ruffle the curtain at the far end. Through that shifting fabric you glimpse the faintest pale grey creeping into the sky. The blackness of night is loosening thread by thread, but the day is not yet ready to arrive. The portraits, blurred into darkness, are quieter still. Their eyes do not gleam now, their mouths do not seem stern. They are shadows with frames, half lost in the hush. You imagine they are sleeping too, content to let the clock keep watch in their stead. The gentleman with his whiskers, the lady with her lace collar, they rest as the hallway rests, each part of the house folded into slumber. The clock strikes again. 3. 3 notes, low and heavy, each one rolling out like the toll of a bell muffled in fog. They sink into the wood, echo in your chest, and leave silence even deeper in their wake. 3 o'clock, the hour some call the dead of night. Yet here, it is not sinister. It is soft, slow, protective. The house has tucked itself around you, and the clock, faithful as ever, rocks you through the quiet. The house makes its own small noises too. A timber sighs above, settling as the cool air contracts it. A pipe ticks faintly, as though water inside is shifting in its dreams. Somewhere far away a hinge creaks with no movement, only the memory of movement. These sounds no longer surprise you. They're familiar now, the gentle shifting of a living structure, breathing with you as you wait for dawn. The lemon drop dissolves slowly, sweet fading into sharp, fading into nothing, until only your breath remains measured with the pendulum's swing. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The hallway is darker, quieter, softer than before, but it feels more like home with every hour. It is no longer a place you pass through. It is a place you inhabit, a cradle of silence, a chamber of stillness. And as your eyes begin to droop once more, you feel as though the hallway itself is whispering to you, "Rest, drift, you're safe here." Tick, tock, tick, tock. The The lemon's brightness has faded, leaving only a faint tang at the back of your tongue, and the hallway draws itself closer around you. 3 o'clock has passed, and the world is so hushed that the very air seems to pause between each tick and tock of the clock. Tick, tock, tick, tock. The pendulum sways with steady certainty, brass glinting faintly in the almost dark. It is like a lantern of sound, a guide that never wavers, no matter how deep the silence becomes. Each tick is a reassurance. Each tock is a reminder that you are not alone. The lamps are nearly gone. Their flames shrink into tiny pearls of light, trembling, stubborn, yet fading. Their weak glow reveals little, just the faint shine of the banister, the dim outline of the wallpaper. The roses there are no longer visible. Only curling vines remain, looping endlessly like dreams etched into plaster. Isn't it curious how, when vision fails, the ear becomes stronger, clinging to the steady rhythm of sound? On a low table rests a porcelain dish. You lift the lid, and inside are sugared almonds, glossy white, smooth beneath your fingers. You take one, bite gently, and the hard sugar shell cracks, scattering sweetness across your tongue before the nut asserts itself. Earthy, dry, grounding. Victorians often served them at weddings, tokens of sweetness amid the solemnity of vows. Tonight, they are simply a comfort in the hallway, a sharp bite softened by sugar like a small joke hidden in seriousness. The draught stirs again, but softer this time, as if tired. It trails across the floorboards, brushing lightly at your slippers, then settles into the corners like a sigh. With it comes the faint scent of stone and ash, the reminder of a fire long extinguished in some distant hearth. It is neither warm nor cold, only neutral, like the air itself has chosen to rest with you. The portraits on the walls are nearly gone into shadow. Their frames gleam faintly, but their faces are lost, blurred into darkness. They are no longer stern guardians or quiet companions. They are simply shapes, sleeping outlines of memory. Their absence feels gentle, not lonely, as though they have stepped back to allow the hallway itself to comfort you. The clock chimes again. 4. 4 slow notes, each one deep, each one sinking into the stillness like a pebble into deep water. The sound lingers, hums, then vanishes. 4 o'clock, the hour when night feels longest, though morning is quietly waiting at its edges. Have you noticed how hours like this seem to stretch, as if reluctant to let go of the night? The house breathes again, a faint creak in the rafters, a whisper of plaster shifting, a faint rattle in the glass panes as the wind brushes past. These sounds are no longer strange. They are the lullabies of the building itself, reminding you that it too is alive, too is resting, too is passing through the night alongside you. The sugared almond crunch fades into memory, leaving only the quiet weight of the nut, earthy and plain. Your mouth is empty, your hands fold into your lap, and your body grows heavier in the chair. The pendulum swings on, rocking you in time with your breath. Tick with the inhale, tock with the exhale, a rhythm so steady, so ancient that you feel it could carry you forever. The hallway is dark, but it is not empty. It is filled with presence, the steady clock, the whispering draught, the creaking beams, the faint sweetness of almonds still lingering on your tongue. All of it blends into calm, a quiet chorus urging you to drift deeper. And as your eyelids grow heavier, the hallway itself seems to murmur, "Stay, rest. Let the clock hold the hours for you." Tick, tock, tick, tock. The sugared almonds have gone, their sweetness just a memory, and the hallway folds itself once more into its quiet rhythm. The silence is thick now, the kind that feels like a blanket drawn across the world, and through it all, steady and unchanging, the clock continues its soft vigil. Tick, tock, tick, tock. The pendulum sways as though it has always swayed, as though it will continue long after you have left. Its sound fills the hallway, not loudly, but completely, like water filling a glass until there is no space for anything else. Isn't it strange how something so small as a tick can fill the whole of your mind? The lamps have nearly surrendered. Only faint glimmers remain, soft halos trembling inside their chimneys. They do not light the hallway anymore so much as mark it, tiny islands of gold in an ocean of shadow. The wallpaper's vines are gone into darkness, leaving only the suggestion of shapes. The hallway now belongs mostly to shadow, and yet it does not feel empty. It feels calm, patient, endless. On a small tray sits a delicate glass dish. You lift its cover, and within lies a spoonful of quince jelly, forgotten but preserved, glowing faintly in the lamplight like amber. You taste it, and it melts on your tongue. Sweet, sharp, faintly floral. Quince was a Victorian favourite, prized for turning sour fruit into shimmering delicacy. Tonight it feels like sunlight captured and hidden in the middle of the night. A secret fruit, saving its brightness just for you. The draught comes again, curling down the hallway. It is cooler now, carrying the faint metallic tang of morning dew that has begun to form outside. It lifts your shawl lightly, brushes along your cheek, then disappears into the staircase shadows. It is as though the night itself is saying farewell, though dawn has not yet claimed the sky. The portraits on the wall are shadows only, outlines in frames. They are no longer people nor faces, but shapes that seem to lean quietly into the dark. Their silence feels like approval, like guardians who have decided you're safe enough to rest. The clock chimes again. 5. 5 notes, each one solemn, each one spreading across the boards like ripples in a pond. 5 o'clock, the moment when night has begun to let go, though the sun is still waiting shy just beyond the horizon. Have you noticed how these early hours feel stretched, as though the night is reluctant to hand over its place? The house shifts with you. A faint pop in the rafters, a sigh in the chimney, a soft rustle from the curtains as the breeze presses gently against them. The building is still dreaming, and you are its listener. Each sound is a word in a story that only the house and the clock know how to tell. The quince jelly lingers on your tongue, its sweetness fading into memory, its floral sharpness leaving only freshness in your mouth. You lean back into your chair, hands folded, shawl drawn tighter. Your body is heavy now, sinking into the rhythm. Tick with your inhale, tock with your exhale. The pendulum carries you, steady, certain, unhurried. The hallway is quiet but not lonely. It is filled with shadows, with whispers, with the timeless voice of the clock. All of it gathers around you like a lullaby sung in wood and brass. And as your eyes drift closed again, the hallway seems to murmur, "Stay, rest. The night will keep you until morning is ready." Tick, tock, tick, tock. The quince jelly's sweetness has faded, and the taste lingers only as a faint memory on your tongue. The hallway, though darker than ever, feels even more like a companion now, its silence no longer heavy but comforting, like a quilt wrapped around the shoulders of the night. Tick, tock, tick, tock. The grandfather clock keeps its pace steady as breath. Each swing of the pendulum feels like the rocking of a cradle, lulling your mind into slower rhythms. The sound is not just noise, it is presence, a steady voice that whispers, "All is well, all is well." The lamps have burned almost entirely out. Their chimneys are smudged, their faint flames reduced to tiny points of gold, more ember than fire. They cast little more than a glow on the brass fittings nearby and leave most of the hallway surrendered to shadow. The wallpaper is lost in the dark. Only a faint glimmer of pattern remains where the last lamp fights to live. Isn't it remarkable how darkness strips away decoration, leaving only essence, wall, wood, silence and clock? On a side table sits a ceramic dish, delicate and chipped. Inside is a cluster of candied orange peel, sticky and translucent. You take a piece, chew slowly. The sugar cracks, then softens, the bitter peel pushing through, sharp and lingering. It is sweet and biting at once, like laughter that hides a tear. The Victorians loved it. Bitterness turned into sweetness, the closest thing to a hot and cold treat. Tonight it wakes your senses for a moment, then soothes them back down into stillness. The draught stirs again, rising gently up the stairwell, brushing against your ankles, your shawl, your cheek. It carries the smell of damp stone, but faintly now, tinged with something fresher, the first trace of morning dew gathering outside. The night is changing hands slowly, like a shift between watchmen. The portraits are nearly gone into darkness. Only the glint of a frame here, the shimmer of glass there. Their faces are not visible, but their presence is still felt, woven into the hush of the hallway. They are companions even in silence, guardians who keep their watch in shadow. The clock strikes again. 6. 6 slow notes, each one deep, each one spreading outward, humming through the boards, echoing in your chest. 6 o'clock, the night's last hour. Beyond the windows, the sky is not yet bright, but it is no longer black. The faintest blue, pale and fragile, is seeping upward. Have you noticed how 6 feels different from the other hours? It is a doorway, a pause between night and morning, a breath held before the day begins. The house shifts faintly, a rafter groans, a pane rattles lightly in its frame. Somewhere water drips into the quiet. These sounds are no longer surprising. They are gentle, part of the lullaby. The house is alive, yes, but it is tired too, ready to pass its silence into daylight. The candied peel leaves behind a tang in your mouth, sharp but faint. You draw your shawl tighter, lean back into the chair, and feel yourself sinking further. Tick with your inhale, tock with your exhale. The pendulum swings, unhurried, certain. The hallway, nearly lost in shadow, is no longer a place of passage, but a cocoon. It is not meant to be walked through. It is meant to be stayed in, rested in, dreamed in. It has become a cradle of silence, rocking you softly into slumber. And as your eyelids grow heavy, you hear it whisper without words. The night is almost done, but for you there is still rest to be had. Tick, tock, tick, tock. The bitterness of the candied peel fades, leaving only the memory of sweetness behind. The hallway grows quieter still, as though every shadow has drawn itself tighter, every sound has hushed to listen more carefully to the clock. Tick, tock, tick, tock. The pendulum sways, its brass catching what little light remains, a faint gleam with each arc. The rhythm is so steady now that your breath has forgotten its own pace and simply follows along, as if the clock has taken the burden of keeping time away from you. The lamps have nearly all gone. One has extinguished completely, leaving only the faint scent of cooled oil behind. The others glow weakly, their flames trembling like tired eyes trying to stay open. Their halos of light barely reach the carpet now. The wallpaper's patterns of roses and vines are gone into shadow, leaving the hallway blank, softened, hushed. Isn't it curious how, when the eyes have nothing left to rest on, the ears begin to notice everything? On a little table by the wall sits a saucer, forgotten, and on it rests a slice of Victoria sponge cake covered with a napkin. The cake is heavy now, a little dry, but when you bite into it, the jam in its centre still brings sweetness, the tartness of raspberry, the sugar of sponge, the faint dusting of powdered sugar that clings to your lips. This was the cake of celebrations, named after the Queen herself, but here it feels like a secret midnight indulgence, the closest thing a Victorian hallway might give you to a soft, edible lullaby. The draught flows again, but it is lighter now. It carries a freshness that wasn't there before, the cool breath of morning creeping into the house. It brushes along the curtains, which lift faintly, and through the gap you glimpse the horizon. No longer black, not even blue, but touched with silver grey, the first shy light of dawn. The night is reluctant to release its hold, but the change has begun. The portraits are nearly invisible, lost to the dark. Their frames gleam faintly, but their faces are gone, absorbed into the hush. They do not seem gone entirely, though. Their presence lingers, like figures in a dream you can't quite see but still feel near. Companions in silence, blurred but benevolent. The clock strikes again. 7. 7 slow chimes, each one gentler than the last, as though the clock itself is growing weary with the night. The notes hum against the boards and settle into the quiet, blending with the faint brightness seeping into the sky. 7 o'clock. The threshold between night's last breath and the world's first stirrings. Have you noticed how dawn always comes more slowly when you wait for it? The house shifts once more. A soft sigh in the rafters, the faintest creak along the banister, a quiet rattle in the chimney. These noises are not intrusions, they are reminders. the house stretching itself, preparing for day even as you remain wrapped in its night. The sponge cake lingers in your mouth, the sweetness fading, the jam leaving only a faint tartness behind. You swallow, rest back into the chair, and let the shawl hug you tighter. Tick with your inhale, tock with your exhale. The pendulum carries you as it has all night, steady, loyal, patient. The hallway is no longer the dark passage it was. It has become a cocoon, holding you gently in its silence. Shadows, drafts, portraits, lamps, all of them part of a single lullaby, sung not with voices but with time itself. And as your eyes begin to close, you hear it once more, the night whispering to you, rest, drift, you are safe. The day will come when it is ready. Tick, tock, tick, tock. The sponge cake's sweetness fades, leaving only the faintest trace of jam upon your lips, and the hallway once again gathers itself around you. The silence feels deeper now, though not empty, full instead with the steady presence of the clock and the quiet patience of the house. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The pendulum swings, its voice unbroken, its brass glimmering faintly with every arc. You have listened so long that the ticking feels less like sound and more like heartbeat. Steady, certain, loyal. Isn't it remarkable how something so small can become the center of your whole world, simply because it does not stop? The lamps are almost finished. Their flames gutter low, blue at the base, gold at the tips, trembling as though they are about to vanish. One gives out entirely, leaving a thin curl of smoke drifting into the air, carrying the faint bitter scent of burnt oil. The wallpaper is no longer visible, its roses and vines swallowed whole by the shadows. The hallway has become simpler, reduced to shape and sound, floor, wall, ticking clock, your own breath. On a polished tray lies a silver box. You open it carefully, and inside are lozenges of rosewater pastilles, pale pink and dusted with fine sugar. You place one on your tongue, and the taste blooms slowly, sweet at first, then perfumed, faintly floral, like eating the ghost of a garden in bloom. The Victorians cherished such confections, delighting in flavours that reminded them of flowers. Tonight it is strange but soothing, as if spring itself had placed a kiss on the middle of the night. The draught returns, curling gently along the boards. It is cooler now, but no longer sharp. It carries with it a freshness that belongs only to early morning, the smell of damp leaves and dew waiting on the other side of the glass. The curtain stirs, and through its movement you glimpse the faintest shimmer of pale light at the horizon. The night is loosening its grip, though it does not yet wish to let go. The portraits are gone into the shadows. Only their frames glint faintly where the last weak lamplight touches them. Their faces cannot be seen, but their presence feels softer now, like memories tucked away, content to rest. You imagine them turning inward, sleeping too, their watch complete. The clock strikes again. 8. 8 deliberate chimes, each one low, soft, patient. The sound rolls outward like waves across a still lake, and when the last note fades, the silence that follows feels even deeper. 8 o'clock, the edge of night's last hour, the first invitation to day. Have you noticed how morning feels closest just before you see it? The house stirs faintly. A board shifts above. A door moves gently in its frame. A hinge sighs as though it has grown stiff with the hours. These are the murmurs of a building readying itself for light, but still unwilling to wake. The rose pastille dissolves slowly, leaving behind the soft perfume of flowers on your tongue. You sink deeper into the chair, the shawl close, your body heavy, your mind slower. Tick with the inhale, tock with the exhale. The pendulum carries you, faithful as it has been since the night began. The hallway is dark, nearly shapeless, but it is no longer just a corridor. It is a cocoon of time holding you safe, rocking you gently in silence. Shadows, drafts, sweets, portraits, all of them threads in the same quiet tapestry, and as your eyelids sink, you hear the night murmur once again. Rest, drift, you're safe. The day will come, but for now let the clock keep the hours for you. Tick, tock, tick, tock. The rose pastille has dissolved, leaving only a delicate sweetness in your throat, like the faint echo of a garden long since gone to sleep. The hallway now feels less like a passage and more like a dream itself, hushed, softened, held together by the slow music of the clock. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The pendulum sways, faithful as ever, steady as breath. Each swing feels slower than the last, though in truth it has not changed. It is you who has slowed, your thoughts falling into rhythm with the endless rocking of brass and wood. Have you noticed how a clock's voice can make your own heartbeat feel calmer, as though the body wants to match its certainty? The lamps are nearly finished. Only faint flames cling stubbornly to their wicks, small pearls of gold trembling against black glass. Their light reaches only a few feet, leaving most of the hallway swallowed in shadow. The wallpaper is gone now, invisible in the darkness. Only texture remains, the brush of wood beneath your fingers, the faint gleam of the banister. On a small table rests a plate with a wedge of seed cake, its surface speckled with caraway seeds. You break off a piece and chew slowly. It is dry, crumbly, the seeds sharp and almost peppery on your tongue. The Victorians loved this cake, plain but hearty, a staple at teas and late suppers. Tonight it feels like a curious comfort, simple, steady, like the hallway itself turned into food. Bitter, sweet and stubborn, the closest thing to an edible metronome. The draught drifts once more, lighter now, carrying the breath of morning waiting just beyond the walls. It smells of damp stone and wet leaves, softened by dew. It slips around your ankles, brushes along your shawl, then disappears again, leaving silence even thicker than before. The portraits are gone completely into shadow. Their frames no longer gleam, their faces no longer watch. They have retreated fully into darkness, leaving you alone with the hallway itself. Yet it does not feel lonely. It feels like a kindness, as though they have stepped back to let the clock be your only companion. The clock strikes again. 9. 9 calm notes, each one rolling through the boards, lingering longer than the one before. 9 o'clock, not night, not yet full day, but the fragile seam between the two. The sound hums through your body, slow, patient, sure, and then silence again, filled only by the pendulum's steady whisper. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The house sighs around you. A beam loosens its weight. A hinge stirs. The faint tap of water in some hidden pipe carries through the stillness. They are not disruptions, but additions, soft notes in the orchestra of a building that has lived many nights like this one. The seed cake lingers in your mouth, its peppery sharpness fading into dryness. You sip from the cold tea forgotten nearby, and the two blend into a faint comfort, sweet and bitter both. Your body softens, your breath slows, and the shawl feels heavier on your shoulders, though it has not moved. The hallway has become less a corridor and more a cocoon. Shadows wrap you, silence holds you, and the pendulum rocks you gently, endlessly. It is as though the house itself has promised to keep you safe until morning comes, and as your eyes drift closed, you hear what the night has been whispering all along. Rest, drift, you're safe. The day waits, but you need not hurry toward it. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The seed cake's sharpness lingers faintly, but already it feels like a memory, drifting away as the hallway folds itself deeper around you. The night has grown thinner, though it still clings to the edges of the house, as though reluctant to leave. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The grandfather clock continues, its pendulum faithful, its brass disc gleaming faintly with each slow swing. Its rhythm has become your rhythm, your breath matching its certainty, your thoughts swaying in time. The sound is less like a machine now, more like a heartbeat shared between you and the house. The lamps are nearly gone. Their light is faint, their flames weak, flickering like tired eyes that refuse to close. They cast no shapes, no shadows, only the faintest glimmer on brass knobs and the edges of the banister. The wallpaper has disappeared completely, lost to darkness. The hallway is now a space of sound rather than sight, filled with ticking, creaking, and the hush of your own breath. On a side tray lies a small dish, and inside, wrapped in parchment, is a square of Turkish delight dusted with sugar. You lift it carefully, and the sugar falls onto your fingers. The sweet itself is soft, chewy, perfumed faintly with rose. It clings to your teeth, leaves a floral sweetness lingering on your tongue, like a kiss from a garden trapped in sugar. The Victorians adored these imports, exotic luxuries wrapped in simplicity. Here, in the shadowed hallway, it feels like a curious dream, a burst of colour in the dark. The draught stirs again, carrying with it a change. It is cooler, but fresher, touched by something alive. Dew on grass, air shifting toward dawn. It curls at the hem of your shawl, brushes along your cheek and vanishes again, leaving a promise that outside the horizon is preparing to glow. The portraits have vanished fully into shadow, their frames now invisible. They are no longer watchers, no longer companions. They are simply gone, as if the hallway itself has claimed them into its silence. Their absence is not unsettling, it is gentle, as though they have stepped away, knowing the clock will carry you through alone. The clock strikes again. 10. 10 low chimes, deliberate and slow, spreading out into the stillness like ripples on deep water. Each note hums against the wood, against your body, against the silence itself. 10 o'clock. Not midnight, not morning. The edge of night softening, waiting. Have you noticed how the closer dawn comes, the slower time feels? As though the world wants you to rest just a little longer. The house breathes quietly. A groan in the rafters, a rattle in a distant window, a faint sigh along the plaster walls. They are not interruptions, but affirmations. The building letting you know it too is waiting for the day. The Turkish delight melts slowly in your mouth, leaving the faintest taste of rosewater behind. Your body softens with it. Your shoulders sink deeper into the chair, your breath slower still. Tick with the inhale, tock with the exhale. The pendulum swings, steady, unchanging, ancient. The hallway has lost its details, but not its presence. It is no longer about wallpaper or portraits or lamps. It is about rhythm, silence, shadow, and the companionship of a clock that never falters. It has become less a hallway and more a sanctuary, wrapping you in patience, rocking you toward rest. And as your eyes flutter closed once more, the night whispers gently, "Drift, you're safe. Let the clock keep the watch until the day finally comes." Tick, tock, tick, tock. The rose-flavoured sweetness of the Turkish delight fades slowly, leaving your mouth tinged with sugar and a faint perfume, as if the night itself had offered you a flower. The hallway grows quieter still, its silence now so complete that every small sound seems to belong to a larger harmony, a lullaby made of shadows and time. Tick, tock, tick, tock. The pendulum swings faithfully, polished brass catching what little remains of the lamp's glow. The rhythm no longer feels external, it feels like part of you, as though your heartbeat has chosen to follow the same path. You inhale, the pendulum ticks, you exhale, it tocks. Together you and the clock keep vigil in the last breaths of the night. The lamps are nearly gone. Their flames flicker low, blue at the base, gold at the tips, struggling against the inevitability of darkness. One has already surrendered, leaving a thin curl of smoke and a faint smell of spent oil. The wallpaper is lost to shadow now, its roses and vines vanished, leaving the hallway smooth, dark, timeless. Isn't it remarkable how a place becomes simpler as the night deepens? Details fading away until only essence remains. On the narrow console lies a small tin, and inside it a cluster of aniseed drops, glossy and dark. You place one on your tongue, and the flavour bursts sharp and curious, sweet but spiced, like licorice in its purest form. The Victorians prized these for their unusual taste, both candy and cure. In this quiet, the sharpness clears your mind even as the sweetness lulls it back down again. A contrast that feels oddly soothing, a spark inside stillness. The draught wanders once more, but now it feels fresher, lighter, touched with the damp coolness of grass and leaves outside. The curtain stirs with its passing, and through the fabric you glimpse the faintest line of pale silver on the horizon. The night is weakening, dawn gathering strength just beyond the glass. The portraits are gone completely, erased by shadow. Their watchers ended, their faces tucked into sleep. You do not miss them now. You understand that their silence, their retreat, is its own kind of comfort, The hallway itself has become enough. The clock chimes again, 11. 11 notes, heavy, patient, each one humming through the air like waves rolling over a shore. You count them slowly, though your mind drifts between each one, heavy with drowsiness. 11 o'clock, the final note before morning breaks. Have you noticed how time feels slower the closer you come to dawn, as though the night itself doesn't want to leave? The house murmurs with you. A faint creak in the beams, a sigh in the stairwell, the soft rattle of a pane shifting against its frame. They are not warnings, only whispers, the sound of a structure alive, waiting for the sun as much as you are. The aniseed drop melts slowly, sharpness giving way to sweetness, then to nothing. You rest your head back, shawl tucked close, and let your body sink heavier into the chair. Tick with the inhale, tock with the exhale. The pendulum swings, calm, steady, timeless. The hallway has become more than wood and wall. It has become a place between places, a sanctuary where time stretches, slows, and carries you gently towards sleep. The darkness no longer feels like absence, but like kindness. Soft, patient, protective. And as your eyes drift closed, the night whispers once more. Drift, rest, you're safe. Let the clock keep the watch until the first light opens the day. Tick, tock, tick, tock. The sharpness of the aniseed drop fades, leaving your tongue bare, your breath slow, your body heavy with the stillness of the hour. The hallway feels endless now, yet not vast. It feels close, cocoon-like, as though its shadows have folded around you to keep you safe until morning comes. Tick, tock, tick, tock. The pendulum sways, polished brass glinting faintly in what little remains of lamplight. Its rhythm is no longer something you hear, it is something you are. Your breath matches it, your pulse drifts with it. The clock has taken the burden of time, and you are free simply to drift. The lamps are nearly finished. Their flames are tiny pearls of gold trembling against glass, their halos shrinking until they touch nothing at all. Soon they will vanish, and the hallway will belong entirely to dawn. The wallpaper's roses are long gone into shadow, the vines erased, the walls smoothed into silence. Isn't it curious how the longer you sit in the dark, the more it feels like light? Your eyes no longer strain, they rest. On the low stand beside you lies a covered dish. You lift the lid and discover a handful of sugared chestnuts, their surfaces glossy, sparkling faintly in sugar. You take one, bite carefully, and it crumbles sweet and soft, with a faint earthy depth beneath. It tastes like autumn saved for winter nights, warmth captured in sugar. The Victorians considered them a delicacy, little luxuries that carried both earth and sweetness in a single bite. Tonight they taste like comfort pressed into the shape of silence. The draught returns, lighter than ever, as if it too is growing tired. It brushes faintly at the edges of your shawl, brings with it the cool scent of dawn stirring outside. Grass wet with dew, stone damp with night air. The curtain lifts, and through its movement you glimpse the horizon. Pale now, the blackness almost gone, the first hints of morning crawling across the edge of the sky. The portraits have gone completely into shadow. They are no longer present, no longer felt. They have surrendered the watch to the clock alone. The hallway feels simpler without them, as though the night has stripped away everything but essentials. You, the chair, the pendulum, the silence. The clock chimes again. 12. 12 deep notes, steady, resonant, patient. They roll through the boards, hum in your chest, echo in the silence, until the last fades away into stillness. 12 o'clock. Though not midnight now, but the morning's threshold. The moment when darkness softens into dawn. The hour when night bows out and lets the day step forward. Have you noticed how the same number feels different depending on where it falls? Midnight feels endless, noon feels bright, and here 12 feels like farewell. The house stirs faintly, a soft creak above, the whisper of beams shifting, the faint sigh of a window easing in its frame. These are the sounds of waking, though quietly, shyly, still wrapped in the edge of night. The chestnut lingers, sweet and earthy, fading slowly into nothing. You let it dissolve, lean back in the chair, and draw the shawl tighter around your shoulders. Tick with the inhale, tock with the exhale. The pendulum swings, calm as always, eternal as always. The hallway is no longer dark in the way it once was. It is lighter at its edges, grey seeping in, shadow softening. Yet its calm remains unchanged. It has carried you through, hour by hour, with only its silence and the ticking to guide you. And as your eyelids drift closed again, you hear the night murmur one last time. Drift, you're safe. The day is almost here, but the clock will carry you the rest of the way. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The sweetness of the chestnut fades, leaving only a faint echo of earth and sugar on your tongue, and the hallway stretches into its quietest hour. The night is no longer heavy. It is thin, softened, and ready to hand itself over to dawn. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The pendulum sways, brass catching the faintest glimmer from the last flicker of lamplight. Its rhythm has become the rhythm of the house, of your breath, of the very air itself. You no longer count the seconds. It feels instead as though the clock is holding them for you, letting you rest. The lamps give their final sighs. One flame vanishes completely, leaving behind only the smell of burnt oil and warm glass. Another clings for a moment, flutters weakly, then fades too. The hallway belongs now to shadows and to the grey light gathering at the edges of the curtains. The wallpaper has gone entirely, its roses dissolved into memory, its vines erased by darkness. The hallway has been stripped of detail, left only with essence. Floor, wall, silence, clock. On a tray at the far end sits a single boiled sweet wrapped in crinkled paper. You unwrap it slowly, the sound faint and crisp in the hush, and place it on your tongue. It is peppermint, sharp at first, then cooling, clearing your breath. The Victorians kept such sweets in their pockets, remedies for sore throats and weary journeys. Here it feels like a breath of morning itself, fresh and light, an edible sigh of relief as the night gives way. The draught stirs once more, but it is no longer heavy or cold. It is fresh now, touched with dew, carrying with it the scent of wet leaves and the first faint blush of the day. It lifts the curtains more boldly, and through them you see the horizon. It is pale, washed with silver, the blackness gone, the first threads of pink weaving upward. Dawn has come quietly, gently, almost shyly, yet undeniably here. The portraits are invisible now, fully dissolved into the dark. Their watch is over. They have yielded to the light that waits at the windows. The hallway feels empty of faces, but not of presence. It feels complete, its work done. The clock chimes, one single note, then two, then three, all the way to 6, each chime softer than the last, as though the clock itself knows the night is finished and does not need to shout, 6 o'clock, morning. The sound hums low through the boards, through your chair, through your chest, then disappears into the pale sky beyond the glass. The house stirs with it. A faint creak upstairs as though someone or something shifts in their sleep. A sigh from the rafters, loosening after the cold. The soft rustle of curtains as the breeze grows stronger, fresher, filled with daylight. The peppermint dissolves slowly, leaving your mouth cool, your breath easy. You sink into the chair, shawl wrapped close, and feel your body heavy but calm. The pendulum swings, still steady, still certain, but now it feels different. Not like the keeper of night, but the gentle usher of morning. The hallway no longer belongs to shadows alone. It glows faintly now, bathed in silver grey. Details return, the edge of the banister, the faint shape of the wallpaper, the gleam of brass on the clock's face. The world is awakening, and the hallway, which has held you all through the night, seems to release you with care. And as your eyes close one final time, you hear the unspoken message of the house, of the clock, of the night itself. Rest, drift, you're safe. The day has arrived and you have been carried here gently. Tick-tock, tick-tock. And so, dear listener, the long night in the Victorian hallway comes to its quiet end. May these gentle memories of ticking clocks, draughts of cool air, and soft shadows guide you into peaceful dreams. If this calm journey helped you drift away, let me know below. Sweet dreams. Until next time, shh, sleep well.